I learned something today, Paul.
Well, should I make a notation in my calendar, or what did you learn, Bert?
I had no idea what a Vig was.
Really?
Yeah, no, I was like, uh-oh, Paul has, he like stopped writing in the middle of a sentence, but I don't know what type of word he was trying to write with Vig. And then I opened the post like most people should, and then read it before commenting, and then realized that you described what it actually is.
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned term. I know about it because Bob Dole, who was a Republican senator, I don't remember from where. That's weird. Back in the well, he was a Republican senator probably for 30 years, but whatever. Back in the 90s, I think he used the term. And I don't remember the context of it, but I remember looking it up in a dictionary.
Yeah.
I was like, Vig? Like, what is... It sounded like something out of like Shakespeare or something,
Yeah.
like some antiquated term. I think it was related to like, gangster mob types in the early part of the 20th century would, have those backroom kind of bookie things going on. Actually, when I grew up, my local barber had a thing like that in his back room.
A murder room?
No, it was just a thing for gambling. So guys, you'd be like getting your hair cut.
Wait, when did you grow up? The 30s?
I know. No, I know. And by the way, this was all over the Boston area because the guy I went to, this was actually in Dedham, but my friend's dad was a barber, and he had this type of thing. And that guy was, actually, he was kind of a mobster type. But this persisted, for many years. Anyway, I didn't know the term Vig from that, but I was aware of these activities,
Yeah. Anyways, the reason that gets brought up is Apple randomly is now letting is anybody else other than Amazon yet? Do we know?
Well, it's not Amazon specific. The way they're presenting it is if you have a premium video service and you offer the ability to you can take your own payments using your own payment system, then you can do that in the apps now, and you won't be beholden to Apple's 30% Vig or fee, I guess we'll call it.
Because I got slightly excited, like this much, that they were kind of maybe relaxing some of this policy on their apps or whatever, and that Game Pass could then show up on my Apple TV, and bada bing, bada boom, we got a...
So I purposely used the Microsoft Office 365 example as why this policy is insane. And there's no indication of this yet, but obviously this is only happening because of all the antitrust scrutiny that Apple's under.
Yep.
And stopping at video makes no sense. I mean, video is a good example because there's good competition in that space, and Apple has an offering. Apple's offering by nature is not subject to this 30% fee, and it is unfairly uncompetitive, anti-competitive, because those services are subsidized by the platform maker that you need to get your stuff out to the world.
Yeah.
Spotify falls under this category in the music space. And then there's the app stuff, and Office 365 is a great example. So if you're a Microsoft customer and you're like, I think I am going to subscribe to Office 365, soon to be Microsoft 365. I saw the news the other day. This is really exciting. And you can make that purchase in a variety of ways. And one of the ways is you could go to the web. You could go to the web on an iOS device, and Microsoft gets $99.99 for that purchase. But if you did it from inside a Microsoft app on an Apple device, the only way that you could get that app would be through Apple Store because of their own restrictions. Apple gets $33.33, and then when you renew next year, they get $33.33. And I believe over time that fee actually goes down to 15%. So maybe 2 years down the line, they'll get 16, whatever half of that is. But I mean, that's for doing nothing. Can
I throw out a conspiracy theory? Why this is happening? So we know the antitrust stuff is floating around. That aside, here's my conspiracy theory about why this is happening now. Apple already knows it's going to have a bad quarter. It's trying to reshuffle the deck on future expectations. And so they already know they can tank this quarter, and it's going to hurt their stock. But, it's justifiable without getting too much scrutiny. So they can say, look, now's the time to enable this functionality. We know revenue is going to drop, but we can paste it up on the wall as, hey, this is just the market. There's nothing we can do.
I'm sure that most conspiracy theories start with someone believing that what they're saying makes sense and blah, 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 and then a bunch of people sign onto it. But I would just say that what you just said is not a conspiracy theory. It makes sense. Yeah. And yes, why not? I mean, at some point, if you can reset expectations and you come back, it's, by the way, I mean, seriously, like, how is this going to impact Apple's revenues? I mean, their services business
Right.
won't be growing as rapidly, basically. I mean, would it even hit 10%? I mean, no, there's no way. So yes, this is something. Look, Apple needs to make these concessions. And here's the thing: like, if you're an Apple fan, let's say like you're just one of those, everything they do is wonderful. They fart unicorns. They're just the best company, and this is better for you too. This is better for everybody. This is better for Apple users, and there will be other changes coming to iOS, iPadOS, etc. As a result that I think are going to benefit everybody. So it's all good.
Yeah.
By the way, in the mornings, it's usually quiet enough here that I can leave the two rooms to my office open. Today, because my wife has just gotten back from a run or whatever, I closed the door so she doesn't have to listen to me, not because she's loud. But my dog, being an incredibly intelligent animal, has walked into my office from the one open door and is now standing in front of the closed door and waiting for me to open it because she can't just walk around.
Oh, yeah. There's probably all sorts of background noises on my end, too, because my wife is having a meeting right now. Usually we don't have them at the same time, but whatever, she does, and she's right on the other side of this wall. My daughter is blasting, I think, My Little Ponies at some obnoxious volume, and I can hear the Sonos subwoofer just going,
Yes.
And then, to top things off, my furnace kicked on, and then there's a little pump on my furnace. So furnaces, when they run, they create moisture, right? And the water drains out, and then it goes into a pump, which then gets like basically pushed up and over to my sump pump, and you can probably hear it running now. Still, just a symphony of noises.
My daughter has a Sonos. It's a smaller one, like a Sonos One of some kind, Play One, whatever, down in the bathroom. So when she takes a shower, you can hear that, what you were just saying, the boom, boom.
Yep.
You can hear the. Here's a little bit of human psychology. This will either betray me to be psychotic, or someone listening will completely understand. And related to this, I'll say, because everyone's working from home, if you live in a congested area, especially an apartment building, we have people kind of all around you. Like one of the things that's happening now is people will be upstairs and they're like exercising, or they're walking around with their shoes on or something, and they're making a lot of noise. And so there was an article in the New York Times, like, how do you deal with this noise? Like, how do you go, like, politely say to these people, hey, by the way, we're all working from home and this building's old, and, there's that kind of issue. So to bring it back to me, I live in a place where, and you might too, I guess, but my neighbors next door to me are old, actually, on both sides, but it doesn't matter. Like, if they were teenagers and they're cranking music in their house, I would never hear it. Like, I would never hear it. And yet, not every time, but many times, when I hear the beginnings of that sound, which is my daughter listening to music in the cellar, my initial reaction is, because I'm really sensitive to sound, is like, oh man, that is not okay. Like, because it sounds like maybe it's a car out in a circle, and you can kind of just hear the windows are up or something.
Yep.
And for 1 second, I get kind of mad about it, and then I realize it's my daughter, and then it's like, oh, that's okay. Right? Is that psychotic? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. My kid is going through a phase right now where she enjoys like crawling around like she's a horse, like a unicorn. And when I'm in the basement, like watching TV, like late at night or whatever, late at night being like 8 o'clock, like I'll hear her just do that, like, and it just drives me nuts because it sounds like thunder, especially whatever. And I get angry, but here's the first world way I deal with this. So usually she's like watching TV, of course, in like our bedroom. My wife is watching on the bigger TV. We all are social distancing in the evening because, let's be frank, we're all just kind of sick of each other at that point. And so when my daughter is like bouncing around, it's driving me nuts. I can pause her show from the basement, and she knows that means she needs to stop screwing around.
There you go.
It's a great lazy way to just communicate.
So I never really thought about this, but because my wife and I have worked from home for so long, and together, and we've been lucky enough that back in our previous home in Dedham and then here again, it just works out that her office is upstairs and mine is downstairs, and they're not above each other. So there's like this separation, and it works, So she can be on the phone and I don't hear it and whatever. But we have established this schedule that's it's mostly unspoken, but during the week, so let's say Sunday through Thursday night, so 5 days a week, we have dinner together, and then we don't see each other until 8. And that's the rule. Again, we never sat and discussed it. No one signed any paper or whatever. But 8 o'clock is the rule. And between whatever that time is, if you finish eating from 5:30 to 6:30, whatever time it is, until 8. Sometimes, like back in the day, before when she would go to the gym, she would go shopping, or she teaches English as a second language, whatever. And I would use that time to do whatever. Sometimes I just play video games, or sometimes I would, or many times, most times, especially the past 6 months or so, I go upstairs and I work on the programming stuff. I work on that, and that's my me time. But the humor of that is simply that sometimes, like other times, like I did this the other day, like I'm like, I'm going to watch a movie, even though like at 8 o'clock when we're together, typically we'd just watch TV, So the other day I was actually watching that Star Wars movie, Rogue One, which is awesome.
Yeah, I need to I have access.
Watch it on Disney Plus, by the way. It's on 4K for the first time. Yeah, it's awesome, and it's a great movie. And it's like 7:45, and my wife walks in the room and she sits down in her chair and she starts doing something on her phone, and I pause the movie and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, what, I can't sit here? And I'm like, I mean, you can. It's like, this is all time.
See, maybe it's because we have younger kids, or maybe it's just actually it's a lot to do with just kind of we'll say the sun. We're kind of almost the opposite camp, maybe. So we usually have dinner together. Like, that's pretty typical. And then what happens is we usually take the dog on a walk around the block.
Hang out walks these days.
Hang out with the neighbors across the street, literally, or whatever. And then like it's usually like, depending on the time of the year, either like 7:30 or roughly when the sun starts to go down. Then we come in, kid takes a bath.
Tough in the summer because it goes down so late.
And then we kind of like disperse. Like, we're the opposite. Like, it's we
so that time comes and you're done. Like, that's because you've been together.
Because we ate dinner, we went on a walk, we hung outside together, and then 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's like you go watch your show, I'll play Xbox.
Yeah, some people will hear that and what I said too, and think that there's some kind of weird antisocial component to that.
Nope.
I think no, it's incredibly healthy, and even those times, like, we're not going to get this year. I mean, I love my family and I love my wife, but I mean, business travel, like when you get to go to a hotel room and you have the whole thing to yourself.
Oh, I know. I told this to my wife. I'm like,
it's not a mean thing, but it's like I can sleep perpendicular in a big bed. Yeah. I'm never going to bump into anybody.
I know. Like, I was actually thinking, it's like, I'm not going to get drunk with Paul a lot this year. Like, this is because usually like we're in New York, we go and I drink like 4 glasses of scotch and I go back to my hotel room at 8:30
of my memories from any given year are you and me and everyone we work with and both inside and outside our company at some hotel bar, wherever. I mean, like, I know it's weird.
What's gonna hopefully happen is sometime in like the month of like November, this is all gonna be blown over and we're all just gonna meet in New York, and it's just gonna be like
it's gonna be like a bacchanal.
we gotta catch up for Build, for Inspire, for Ignite.
There is gonna be a post-apocalyptic hangover coming. There's no doubt about that.
Like, I realistically think our next potential chance at travel could be if Microsoft holds a hardware event in the fall.
In New York, yeah.
In New York. Because I could see them, if everything is blown over by then, let's hope by then.
So there's something to that because, even though Microsoft just announced this kind of, we're going to explore all digital experiences thing, one thing that Microsoft has done in the past, I'll cite a really good example. It's like after 9/11, they elected to continue with their Windows XP event in New York City, specifically because that place had been so hard hit by that tragedy, and they wanted to do what they could for the local economy. You could make that argument, obviously, with this situation in New York is one of the hardest hit places for sure. And you could see Microsoft wanting to give back in some small way, I mean, so I could see that happening.
We'll see. I mean, there's too many variables at this point, so we'll see what happens.
I was telling my wife yesterday that you're more south than I thought you were, and I was like, I wonder what the tax situation's like in Ohio.
I mean, if you're trying to avoid taxes, I think Florida is the way to go, but maybe not right now.
Well, Florida might be wide open soon, Brad.
Yeah, well, some new property coming online.
Unfortunately, I have like a brother and a sister in Florida. They finally wised up, but that place eventually is gonna. That might surpass New York. I mean,
yeah,
just from stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, just the age of the population is going to be the
that hurts too, right? And that's a particular risk for this particular virus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't Hurricane Irma. It was
yeah, Hurricane COVID.
Yeah, it's going to come streaming on through. We'll see how that goes. You got anything else for today, Paul?
I don't even know anymore. No, I guess not. I don't know. No.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you don't. I don't know. I got nothing else either.